Ladies and gentlemen, today is December 17th. Yes, it is 2017. And this is the KNKL Show 359, where we learn to be better artists normally. But today we're going to be going into a bit of a Q&A because I am returning to you after a month's rest. And I have some explaining to do, I understand. But we're also going to be taking our time to ease back into things. And we're going to be just relaxing. You can tell the light is very cozy because not only is it the end of the day, and it's not the most ideal lighting situation, but I don't really care. It's all right because for the most part, we're going to be looking at your guys' art today. Hey, isn't that awesome? So let's go ahead and jump over to that. And in the meantime, in the background, I will be here talking to you. And I'm going to be reading off a few questions. Really awesome Q&A that I got from a student named Casey. And they were interviewing me for a presentation they were going to be giving to their class. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be simultaneously, let me make sure this works. Okay, I'm going to be scrolling this awesome art right here. And I'm going to be reading off these questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I think this will be a good way to get back into things, don't you think, guys? Isn't that nice? Yeah, so let's go ahead and scroll that. I'm going to go ahead and get into this. Okay, so the first question coming in from Casey. They were asking, what were the steps that led you to where you are now professionally? And I'm going to go ahead and move this mic over here. Move this over here because for the most part, I'm going to be looking over here at these questions. All right, that should be a little bit better. All right, so and I'm just going to read. I'm going to read my answer, and then I'm going to go into a little bit more explanation as well as we scroll past this art. So I answered to that question, along with a lifetime of devotion to the study of art, video games, and cartoons. My career started as an illustrator for children's books for a small local company out in Utah. Yes, that is how I got my industry job started. I actually didn't go to a lot of college. I took one semester of 3D animation. And because I thought, like, with the release of like Toy Story and all the Pixar films, I was like, oh, 2D animation is going out. It's going to be dead. All the games are going 3D. Nobody needs 2D animation anymore. And I could not have been more wrong at that time. But regardless, I only took a semester of college. I decided to start working as soon as possible. I got an internship at a small company out in Utah. And that career, or basically that job, at the end, I was illustrating books for them. And that was a really good way to get started. But it says here, over the years, I continued drawing pictures of the characters that I liked, eventually leading me to getting noticed by a small at the time company, Riot Games. I joined them for 2 years before leaving to start my own comic book, Emma, which I know you guys want me to finish that, and I will get to that eventually. But right now it's on hiatus, okay, because I got other things that I'm making. But don't worry, I think about Emma every day, guys. I really do. Today I'm working with Wave Dash Games on the upcoming platform fighter Icons Combat Arena. And I was invited by the team by a couple of my friends and previous coworkers from Riot Games. So a lot of you guys know Grumpy Monkey, Joshua Singh, as well as Iron Stylist, Michael Marino. Those were the guys that invited me to join the team, and I could not be happier to work with such talented and amazing fellows. Next question. How did you get your first paid project and or job? By the way, I really like these questions because I feel that they're very applicable to artists that are kind of getting started in the industry, but also people that are working in the industry or perhaps wanting to know what the mindset of someone working professionally can be. And I hope that you guys notice that a lot of my experiences, maybe things that you're going through, a lot of my thought processes, or maybe even problems that I have are very applicable to you guys as well, regardless of what stage you're at. And I hope that will allow you to take comfort. Take comfort and take heart. So let's go ahead and move on to this next one. How did you get your first paid project and or job? Okay, so this has to do with how I started working with Sandman and started illustrating those books. And the answer is my father was working with a visual effects studio. I worked along with him to create a storyboard for one of the founder's movie scripts. I joined the company as an intern, leading to the eventual illustration projects for their children's books. Humbug, A Christmas Carol. By the way, in case you're curious about those books, the names are Humbug, A Christmas Carol. Hey, how awesome is that? How timely is that? It's Christmas. You should go out and get it. You should go out and buy it. If you want one of my first, I think that was like literally my first gig, my first illustration gig. yeah, so if you guys want to see what my art looked like back then, just type in Humbug Christmas Carol. And the other book was called Beau and the Beanstalk. That's Beau, B-E-A-U, and the Beanstalk, which is a really cool, clever story, clever twist on Jack and the Beanstalk. Really, really liked that one. That was a ton of fun working on. Okay, so next question. Question 3. Okay, so now we're getting into some really, really fun ones. I like these questions came in. How do you deal with difficult clients? This is an awesome question, Casey. And I answered, the best thing to do is make sure that all of your terms and conditions are well outlined in your contract. This includes things like number of revisions, deadlines, payment dates, etc. So yes, the most important thing that you can do with difficult clients is that if you're ever going to have an argument, or if you're ever going to push back on something, if they're, say, telling you to do too many revisions, they're trying to pay you like crap, which most people will try to lowball you. And I get it. It's like, it's in their best interest. They're trying to save money for their company, but understand that you can only go so far. You need to also make sure that it's a win-win scenario for both of you. It is a relationship. So you don't want to be the one that's giving all the love and not giving any back, or getting any back. So make sure that all that stuff is properly laid out in your contracts, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you lay out your proper deadlines. Make sure you lay out your proper revisions. Make sure you lay out your pay, how much, when, where, how, who, all that stuff. Make sure all that stuff is clearly outlined so that way you can always refer back to it. That's the way that I've found the best way to deal with difficult clients. Other ways is, I don't know if I should tell this story. Other ways is that if you are going to criticize, or if you are going to bring something up, make sure that, okay, I can tell the story. Okay, so I had a client that once wanted me to create a splash image, right? And they basically contacted me at the end, and this is a story that will happen to you guys. I'm sure this is going to happen to you guys. But they contacted me saying that I was basically their last hope, and that they had gone through many other artists and already had wasted so much money trying to get this promo image looking at to a certain degree, right? And they reference like League of Legends splash arts. So they send it over to me and they say, like, our confidence is like really wavering. Can you do this? Like, can you create a League of Legends quality splash image for us, right? And at that point, like, what really bothered me was the fact that these people were first of all trying to lowball me on price, because they had now placed the fault of them going to other artists that couldn't get the job done properly. Now that's on me. Now their fault is on me for why they can't pay me what I was asking for. And then second of all, they asked, can you do this? Can you create something to this level of League of Legends splash art? And then they showed me something that I literally drew. And at that point I was like, guys, listen. And this is what you do. This is what you call dealing with difficult clients. Is you want to make sure that you have their best interest in mind. I said, guys, listen. I know you're trying to run a company, but should you be working with professional artists and you're not doing your research on who you are? Like, I don't. This is gonna sound really full of myself, but like, just take this literally. Like, do research on who you're working with. Do research on the fact that the person that you're talking to may have actually created that image, may have actually been the person that painted that. And because if you don't, it's going to make you look really bad. It's going to make you look really amateur. And I know that you guys are better than that. I forget exactly how I worded it, but regardless, it was funny. But actually, what's interesting is that because I framed it in a way of, listen, guys, I know you're trying to run a business. I run a business as well. But look, like, you guys have to do your research if you want to be taken seriously. I want to take you guys seriously. I want to work with you, but this is not a good step in the right direction. And when I framed it like that, even though I was being a bit blunt, but because I showed that I actually cared about them being able to build their business and actually look good to other people that they wanted to work with in the future, they actually came back and they said, thank you. Like, thank you for that feedback. Like, we're totally sorry about that. You're right. We should be doing our research, and we're definitely going to keep that in mind for the future. And then I ended up working with them, so it was a win-win. So I found that when you have to deal with difficult clients, most important thing is to stay true to yourself. And if there has to be criticism given, make sure that you keep the other person's interest in mind and don't just attack them. Don't just attack them. Attack the problem, but not the person, right? Attack the problem, not the person. So anyway, and I hope that came out right. I hope that came out right, but that's basically what I said. Okay, let me check and make sure that this is coming through properly. Okay, good. We still got our scroll on. We still got our scroll on. Maybe we could scroll just a little bit faster. Oh, crap. Hang on. Hang on, I got to pull up the questions. There we go. Now we can get our scroll on. Scroll back on. All right, the next question is coming in as this. Okay, great question. What has been one of your biggest mistakes and what did you learn from it? Again, just get into the meat and potatoes. Man, I love these questions. My biggest mistake was not learning how to take proper breaks during work, not only to avoid the mental burnout, but also to avoid the physical injuries to my hand and arm that come from not stretching properly. Okay, so yes, my biggest mistake that I had when I first started working is that I thought that I was focused on working at like putting the stylus to the tablet and like working as opposed to results. I was focusing on time in as opposed to what was going to be shown at the end of all of that time. Because of that, I never took breaks. I never stretched my hand. And at the end of the day, I would have cramps. I would have terrible pain in my palm. And it eventually started going up my forearm to my back. And it was absolutely terrible. I hated my life back then. And it sucks because once you get injured like that, if you still have that mindset of like, oh no, I still need to be working, I can't be taking breaks to be taking care of myself, then the injuries could just compound and compound, and the stress just continues to build, and then it starts moving into like, now you're like mentally starting to destroy yourself. And it's a terrible snowball effect. And so that was my biggest mistake that I want you guys to avoid. Is that make sure you're taking care of your bodies. Make sure you're taking care of the thing that's actually going to allow you to be successful at your job, and understand that taking breaks is actually one of the best ways that you can get out of tough situations or find solutions to problems that you're dealing with, whether it's in a composition or whether it's in a character's face or expression. I always find that taking a break, reassessing the situation, and asking what the main thing that I wanted to achieve with this piece was, even for just 15 to 20 minutes, it just makes a world of difference. And it will save you hours of time. That's the thing, is that it ends up saving you hours of time that you may have spent trying to force something to work. And then at the end of the day, you look at it. Actually, this is what happens. At the end of the day, you're like, oh man, okay, this is like, okay, I'm going to let it say I'll come back tomorrow. And then the next day you come back and you look at it and you're like, this is absolutely terrible. And you delete those hours of work and you start over, right? It's like, that didn't have to happen. That didn't actually have to happen. If you would have just taken 20 minutes to realize, maybe I should be approaching this problem from this angle. And then you do that with like a concerted effort, then you wouldn't, A, you would have time to stretch, and B, you would save hours of time. Okay, so that's the biggest mistake that I ever made. Don't let that happen to you guys. Okay. Next question, question 5. Have you ever experienced a point in your career where you felt burnt out? Yes. If yes, how did you get out of that rut? Okay, and I answered yes. To get out of it, I quit. Okay, so I took this opportunity to be dramatic, okay? But this is referring to Riot Games. I did get burnt out. And there was something that I wanted to create, and that was Emma, the comic. And of course, I know you guys I know what you're thinking right now. I do want to get back to it. I put it on hiatus because I even got burnt out of the comic. There was something else that I was missing. I missed working with my team. I wanted to find a balance between being able to have this impact, being able to have impact at my job, as well as, what's the word? I wanted to have impact with like creating characters. At Riot, the company got so big that the characters and stories that I was creating were somebody else's. Whereas at a place like Wave Dash, a smaller team, I have the opportunity and the trust to actually create some of these characters, create the lore, the story. But then also, I get to work with a team, right? Emma had complete creative freedom. Complete creative freedom. Why is that so hard to say? I had that, but I didn't have my team. I didn't have my team, and I really missed that from Riot. So I found a way to put them together. Now we have good old Wave Dash. Okay, but yes, to get out of it, I quit, even though at the time my My net worth was pretty close to zero. Yeah, that's right. When I quit Riot, I had a lot of credit card debt, and I had just enough in my account that if I put that towards my credit card debt, it would have just zeroed out. So basically what I ended up doing was I lived off of savings, and then I kept like using my credit card. And then at the end of it, I just ended up being even further in debt than when I left. But I wanted it so bad. Like, I was willing to take that chance. First of all, because, you know, I was like younger and like I didn't have any responsibilities. So I was like crazy. Also probably a little dumb. But regardless, it was totally worth it. And I'm glad that I did it. But I go on further to say that being able to take a couple of years off to pursue my passion of making a comic allowed me to get my mental and physical health in a proper state. So when I returned to work, I could do it with a clear mind and an ideal to strive forward. And that just goes to show you guys that mental problems and things that you will deal with, whether it's art block or burnout, it is always going to be looming around you. It's always going to be just around the corner, and you need to be watching for it. And the skill of learning how to deal with that is truly another thing that sets great artists, or it sets okay artists away from the amazing artists. People that understand their limits. People that don't ignorantly believe that they can do anything for anybody and they can say yes to everyone. But people that know their limits, they know how to stand up for themselves. People who know how to say no sometimes. People who know how to deal with difficult clients and properly put them in their place. All those things are really, those are skills to learn. And don't feel like you're set back if you don't have those yet. Those are things that you will learn, and I continue to learn as I go forward. Okay, so next question. I think there are 10 questions here. Let me take a quick look here. Pause this. We are on question 6 out of 10. Yes. Okay, let's get back to it. Is everything still working? Everything's still working. Yes! Yes, it's still working. I'm so happy. I like this format. I like that I can just show you guys awesome art while I read these questions. And it looks like we'll finish these questions right as these pictures finish. So that is perfect. Okay, question 6. What do you wish you knew at the beginning of your career? Okay, this is really important, guys. I have no idea what I answered here, but I already know it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. So, sorry, I'm getting distracted by some of these sexy pictures. Oh, wow. These are awesome. You guys are so great. I love watching you guys express yourselves in so many different ways. It's so cool. Anyway, what do you wish you knew at the beginning of your career? I wish I would have known that so many of the professionals from the industries I wanted to work at were all attending conventions. And that if I wanted to be even more aggressive with getting noticed, that I could have been attending more conventions and meeting people in real life. So yeah, that is definitely what, if I could go back and tell my younger self something, it would be this, is that's really awesome that you're creating this fan art, but make sure that you understand that Samwise Didier, the art director of Blizzard Entertainment, is going to be at this convention. He's going to be at this venue. And if it's not him, then it might be somebody else from Blizzard or somebody else from Riot Games. They could be exhibiting for themselves. At the time I met Samwise, he was exhibiting as Samwise in the Artist Alley of WonderCon. I think that was like two years ago. But there's so many conventions out here, especially in the States. International people, I know you guys have a challenge, but it is not impossible. But you do also have to understand that eventually, if you want to work in the States, that you're probably going to have to move here. So the sooner you can do that, and the sooner you can get out and start meeting people face to face, it's going to give you a huge edge. It's going to give you a huge edge because, as I've said before, when the team is sitting down and they're saying, guys, we need another artist, does anybody have anyone in mind? Oftentimes they're thinking about faces. Oftentimes they're thinking about a person that they met, as opposed to just the fan art that they saw posted on their forums. That stuff helps, but you want to think of it as like that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, okay, yeah, their art is good, but have I met this person? What's it going to be like to have them on our team? What do they look like? As funny as that sounds, it's not saying that you have to be beautiful or anything. Of course, I mean, look at me, I'm all unshaven and I look like a hobo, but that's okay because, you know, hopefully people consider me nice and that I don't even know where I'm going with this. Point is, get your face out there, guys. Get your face out there. People will like you. People will like you. Okay, next question. Oh, man, I just realized, man, it just hit me how hungry I actually am. I slept in today because I stayed up all night last night playing Dark Souls 3 and Fortnite, both amazing games that I'm really enjoying, but I am super hungry, so I'm definitely going to get something to eat after this. Okay. Question 7. What has been your most interesting project? Oh my gosh, we just hit the end of the pictures. Oh, I was hoping to time that so it would perfectly end right at the end, but it looks like we're just gonna, you guys are gonna get the talking head for the rest of the show. You guys are gonna get the talking head for the rest of the show. What has been your most interesting project? My most interesting projects are always my own, okay? I mean, that should not come as a surprise to anybody. With the YouTube art tutorial series, KNKL Show, hey, have you guys ever heard of that? To creating Emma. But other than that, I'm really enjoying the great sense of impact that comes along with working at a startup company like Wave-Games. So yes, that is, yeah, up until now, those have been my most interesting projects. Working on a platform fighter. When I first started playing Super Smash Bros. On the N64, I dreamed of the day that I could create a game like that. But it was such a crazy dream that I kind of like pushed it off to the side. It's like when you're a kid and you say you want to be an astronaut, and then later when you're an adult, you're like sitting in the shuttle about to launch off to Mars, and then you remember back, you're like, oh, I totally forgot that this was a dream that I had when I was a kid, but I totally pushed it off to the side because I didn't think it would ever happen. But it's like subliminally or by some crazy force of nature, I got here. And that's kind of what happened when I started working with Wave Dash. I was like, man, this game is good. Oh wow, like I totally wanted to create this game when I was a kid. It's so cool to be here now. So yeah, that's definitely the most interesting project I've ever been on. I'm really happy to be a part of the team over there. Question 8. Do you have any messages you try to convey through your work? Of course. What kind of a loaded question is that? What kind of loaded question is that? The answer is, of course, yes. With each piece, whether through details in a character's clothes, the expression on a face, or the environment around them, I always want to convey a sense of feeling and story to my viewer. Marco Bucci really goes into this. He talks about messages in art, and he talks about how important it is, the most important thing that you can convey with a piece of art. Or not necessarily the most important thing, but something that really allows a piece to stick with somebody or allows somebody to relate to something is to put a message in there, put a story, put something to get people wondering about your art, get people interested. And it can just be done. It doesn't mean that you always have to like have some crazy grandiose story happening in the background, but have details. It could be something as simple as details in a character's clothing, the expression on their face, battle damage, scars. It could be the environment around them. It can be two characters interacting. I found that's the easiest way to start telling a story, is having characters interacting with each other. But then on top of that, to have all those layers of detail and story happening within them, that's what creates an awesome and amazing piece. All right, and that is something that I'm always striving to do. Always striving to hit that feeling, but almost in a very simple way. I'm always asking like, okay, I got this feeling here, but how can I make that more simple? How do I encapsulate this feeling and give it to somebody in the most efficient way? I know that's kind of like a real meta thing to say, but anyway, you guys can probably see a little bit of that in my art. I like simple stuff. I like simplistic stuff. Okay. Question 9. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? This is a good one. This is a real good one. Best advice I've ever been given was that the rule of small, medium, large, and that all good designs have a balance of detail, rest, and form. Okay? Now, this is something that I always tell you guys about, is the small, medium, large technique. This was taught to me by Iron Stylist Michael Marino, the amazing God artist that I have the pleasure of working with every day. But yeah, I remember the day he dropped this on me, it was like my mind exploded and it became the universe. It became as amazing as the universe. I saw it all as one. And it was like, oh, that was the key. And that was actually it. The best advice is that always find balance in your work. Find balance in your designs. Small, medium, large. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you guys haven't been watching the show enough. You need to go back. You need to check out the Concept Art Bootcamp. And yeah, I highly recommend you guys go watch that. And finally, question 10. Casey's saying, as I graduate in May, I would love to hear any advice you would give to artists who are just starting out. For example, very nervous when approaching potential employers. I can understand that. Do you have any advice on the best way to find approach studios? Now, totally get this. Get this, guys. And yes, I'm just going to go ahead and read this, what my advice is, because I'm sure I much more coherently said it here. My best advice is that you should never rely on just an application resume to get you the job. Yes, and I've said this so many times, guys. It's like, just because, like, don't even wait for the opening. Don't even wait for the opening to appear on the website of the place that you want to work at. Because oftentimes, like, I fell into this trap so many times. So many times. And it was back when I was 16. I wanted to work at Blizzard Entertainment. I was like, oh, I want to be an artist. I want to be an artist. But then I looked at their website and I was like, oh, but there's no position available for artists right now. And so I stopped. I was like, maybe now is not the time to apply, you know? But I made the grave mistake of thinking that the only way that I can get interested, or that I could get a company like that interested in me, is by sending in an application and a resume. Instead of thinking, oh, well, is there a way that I could meet these people? Is there a way that I could run into somebody from this company? And that was a grave mistake. But not to mention, at Riot, every time we wanted to hire artists, we never had the job available on the website anyway. But by the time we started putting stuff on the website, we were so desperate. We were so desperate. It was the last thing we wanted to do. And even more annoying than that was going through the emails, going through the applications, looking at people's ArtStation. Not that we love you guys, right? We love artists, but like at the point where you have to start looking through hundreds of them, it's like they all start blending together. And it sucks that that's the case. But again, that's what I'm talking about, is that you want to be more than just a portfolio online. You want to be more than just a resume. You want to have a face attached to you. You want to have an interaction attached to you. And that is only going to be gotten, is that the right word? Yes, that is only going to be gotten by you meeting people at conventions or meeting people face to face. Okay? Yes, meeting someone, and that's what I go into over here. Meeting face to face is always the best bet. And the way you do that is by attending conventions. I found by setting up an artist alley, it's a great way. It's a great way to get started on learning about business, learning about interacting with people, learning about talking to people, and it gets you social. And it's really awesome because you'll meet other people that are very like-minded like you. You'll make friends. You'll make booth buddies because, hey, guess what? The people right next to you have a lot of similar interests. They're artists. They're creators. They might be a little bit out of their comfort zone as well because they're just starting working at conventions, or maybe they're quite seasoned. They've been there for a while and they might have some advice for you. All those things, all those interactions are just nothing but amazing. It's a great way to start building your network. It's a great way to start building your skills with talking to people and meeting other professionals. And I highly recommend that. All right, meetups and other things that will otherwise grow your network. Yes, growing your network. When you ever hear people talking about growing your network, that's honestly what they're talking about, meeting people. Meet people. You get your big break when you attain a proficient level of your craft and start running into the right people over and over again. And that's the other thing, is that I even need to take this advice for myself, is that you want to make sure that you don't just apply once. Don't just apply once and then it doesn't work, so you're like, oh, okay, well, I tried, but it didn't go through, or I didn't hear anything back from him, so I won't do it again. It's like, no, it's like the best thing that you can do. The people that get the jobs are the ones that are persistent. The people that are, and that's the thing, is that because I've also ran into a lot of persistent people, but their skill isn't quite there yet. But of course, because they're so persistent, we always have our eye on them. And when the day comes, when they hit that tipping point, you think that they're not going to be the first person that we contact? Of course we are going to. So regardless of whether or not you feel your skill is at that proper stage yet, persistence always helps. Persistence always helps and it always pays off. And it gets you, I find that it's a humbling experience and it's a good thing for you guys to learn early on. It's a very, very good thing because oftentimes it will result in failure. It will result in nothing. But that's a really important thing to learn as an artist. Not just failing as far as like sending in an application, but failing in terms of creating a design for a character, creating something that you believed in, creating something that you really liked, but then you realized, oh, but the market that we're going for, we need to change a few things. or maybe your art director wants you to change something, and then you have to start all over again. Usually that's not the case. Usually you don't have to start all over again. But being okay with admitting that you might have to change something, or being okay with, what's the word? Here's what it is. Here's what it is. The best artists, the best concept artists understand the art of failure, and that your best work is going to come out of you not on the first time, not on the second time, maybe not on the 100th time, but being able to create hundreds of failures, right, to get to that one piece or that combination that creates that one character that is absolutely amazing. And being okay with not getting attached to your art, being okay with not getting attached to your early ideas, but instead enjoying the exploration phase, enjoying the failure stage, as we like to call it. And that translates to everything else. It translates to everything else in the industry. It translates to you getting a job, translates to you getting noticed, translates to amazing things in your life and happiness, I would say. A lot of happiness and not taking yourself too seriously. And speaking of not taking yourself too seriously, I owe you guys a little bit of an explanation because I've been gone for a little while. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's go ahead and wrap this up with, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you guys for being patient with me. Thank you for allowing me to take a little bit of time off during the season, and understanding that a little bit of burnout, it can affect all of us. It can affect everybody. But I have been feeling a lot better. I've been coming back to this and realizing that, you know, I said this in my last episode, but I feel like I was just barely starting to believe it. But now I truly do. And that is that I don't have to take myself so seriously. I don't have to worry so much about everything being perfect. And knowing that, knowing that that's good enough for me is really the most important part. But the cherry on top, right? The icing on the cake, the amazing, I'm imagining like one of those chocolate cheesecakes from Cheesecake Factory. Those things that you swear you would never eat the entire thing, but then they bring it to you and you somehow eat the entire thing in one sitting. You say, no, I'll take some home later, but you make the entire thing disappear. I'm imagining one of those cakes right now. And that is that you guys continuing to support by watching on the YouTube, telling your friends about it, subscribing, even those of you that are crazy enough to support on the Patreon, download the PSDs. I really appreciate you guys for that. And I'm glad that me being here talking to you guys can allow you guys to grow, can give you some insight into being a professional. And I still find myself, I still catch myself feeling like that self-doubt that comes from, what is it? That self-doubt that comes from people liking what you do and you feeling like you don't deserve it. And I want to promise you guys that that is something that I'm going to continue to work on. I'm going to continue to work on it. And I won't stop until it is completely gone. And I feel like it is already on a good path. I feel like taking these last few weeks off has allowed me to get into this headspace of that I should be creating this show for myself, and that the best work, the best shows always come out when I'm in the best mood possible. And that for too long, I've been allowing this self-doubt, this lack of confidence, this feeling of like, I want to improve the quality and only so much, like my bar of quality, it like either has to hit this or it's not good at all, which sometimes is the case. But I think that I've just been holding myself to too high of a bar, when really you guys just appreciate anything. You guys appreciate that I come on here and even just talk to you. And I want to be doing that more. And I want to be focusing on getting back to what we used to do. Getting back to what we used to do on the show. And that is just having fun and creating the things that we wanted to, or creating the things like creating the pieces that I wanted to, but then also just allowing the tutorials and things to come naturally. And even having days where I do thoughtfuls like this, where I talk to you guys. I want those to come out naturally as well. And I'm going to stop second guessing myself. And you can call it an early New Year's resolution, but that is what we're aiming for. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. So thank you guys so much for joining me on YouTube. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. I'll talk to you guys. And speaking of Patreon, this is usually where I point up to Patreon. I do want to release something. I do want to release a PSD for you guys because, yeah, I want you guys to download something. So I'm gonna find one of my older PSDs or an unreleased PSD, and I'll put it up on Patreon for you guys. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check that out. And again, I always appreciate all the support. You guys are awesome. You guys take care. I'll see you guys soon. I might be. I don't know exactly when the next show will be. Again, with all the holidays and stuff approaching. But I'll be seeing you guys again soon. Okay? So you guys take care. I'll see you then.